Alright guys, so this is the Dynomotive Uni-Chip 2021 Toyota GR Yaris Rally Edition. One of the things that we've all agreed with, aside from having the big plans as far as tuning and performance work goes, is it's a little bit too high. We're not quite happy with how high it is, and manufacturers tend to release new cars at the moment slightly higher than what they should be. So we've taken some measurements on some flat ground at all four corners. We're going to put it up on the hoist. We're going to bang in some H&R lowering springs, take it off the hoist, re-measure, and then follow that up again in about 1,000 Ks. 340 mil. Hand front at 347 mil. Left hand front at 348 mil. Left hand rear at 341 mil. All right, so as you can tell, I've got the front strut out of this Yaris. Like with all Toyotas, the pulling them apart is actually really easy when you compare it to other manufacturers on the market. So it's literally a 10-minute job to get the front shock out. I've fitted the H&R spring. As I mentioned earlier, we tend to go towards the H&R spring because they're the most consistent product available on the market. That's what we find anyway. Undone the centre nut, swapped the springs over. There's no spring load on it, so they didn't need clamps or anything like that. I've now refitted the H&R spring and I'll pop the shock back in and we've got the rears to go. Righto, so rear springs are done. It was super straightforward. Wheels off, one bolt to swing the lower control arm down, spring falls out at you. Fit the new one in, put a little bit of pressure on the lower control arm to refit it, and the bolt goes back in. The entirety of this job takes about 45 minutes, so it's really, really simple to do. The results look unreal. I can't wait to get it on the ground and have another measure and see how far we've gone down. All right, so before we take off on a road test, I'll give you a quick rundown as to why we fit an aftermarket blower valve, the only reason why we do. It's to basically increase the vent capacity. So when we tune a vehicle, we're bringing up that boost pressure, and obviously with excess boost pressure, there's excess airflow that needs to be vented. 99% of the blower valves, the standard blower valves on the market, are at their limit with standard boost pressure. So once we bring up that boost pressure, the airflow has to be vented somewhere, hence the need for an aftermarket blower valve. In turn, when we vent that boost pressure, it increases the long-term life of the turbo by taking the pressure off it. Righto guys, so what we've got is obviously our 21 GR Yaris Rally Edition. We've been doing some pretty extensive development on it since we received it. At this point in time, I've got some data for you and a few results. So I've got the result of what it made standard, then I fitted a Uni-Chip to it and custom live tuned it with a Uni-Chip, then fitted our turbo back exhaust and of course retuned it to suit, as well as a few other features I'll go through. We'll start with the dyno graph. Standard, straight out of the factory, it made about 153 kilowatts at all four wheels, and just under 300 Newton meters, so about 290 Newton meters of torque. From there, fitted a Uni-Chip to it, custom live tuned it, made 177 kilowatts at all four wheels, and bumped up the torque to about 340 Newton meters. And of course, after that, I fitted the turbo back Dynomotive exhaust with the bimodal valve on it. We're now sitting at 189 kilowatts and 360 Newton meters, so pretty substantial increases across the entire development range. A few other things to note that I've done to the vehicle in the meantime is I've fitted and developed launch control for the vehicle, meaning that we've got things, of course, launch control, but cool features like flat shifting, cool pops and bangs that everyone's been chasing, and this is still being done with the standard intake. So to go over a few of the boost levels and changes that we've made while tuning it, standard, vehicle makes 21 pound, falls away, as we all know, and it's been very well documented. After I fitted the Uni-Chip to it, I got it up to about 23 PSI. It still fell away, but held about 2 PSI more than standard. And now with the turbo back exhaust, it just nudges 25. Again, it still falls away, but we are holding 2 or 3 PSI over the standard value of the boost. Okay, so as I mentioned, I fitted a Dynomotive turbo back exhaust to this. There's plenty of exhaust options available for the Yaris, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, which meant utilizing a bimodal control valve that uses the Uni-Chip to control it. What that means is you can have a different exhaust note, predetermined RPM using the drive modes inside the vehicle. So in normal mode, you can have it basically closed. Silent, the car's very sedate. Put it in track mode, the exhaust valve opens, you obviously get that deeper note, more aggressive sound, and it can be adjusted to whatever RPM or whatever features you like, however your preferences are. Alright, so we fitted the H&R springs, which is supposed to drop it down by about 30-35 mil. What I'm going to do is take some measurements. I've done about 1,000 Ks in it over the last 3 weeks, driving it around and letting the spring settle. So let's get some height changes and see what we've got. All right, so the front is now sitting at 314 on the left-hand front. Exactly the same on the right-hand front, 314 mil. On the rear, we've got 315 mil. And same again on the passenger side rear. So that seems about right. So it's dropped it about 30 mil all the way around the car. The video is obviously going to have the actual heights and the differences in it, but all around it's settled nicely. It's a very symmetrical ride height now. Pretty happy with the result and also the way it looks. So with launch control, that's basically a random misfire which leaves behind a certain amount of unburnt fuel in the exhaust behind the turbine wheel. This hot fuel mixture spins the turbine wheel harder and faster than you possibly could without any load on the vehicle. So keep in mind, under normal conditions, a turbo requires load to generate boost. In this circumstance, it allows the turbo to be spooled up before you let the clutch out. And flat shifting is a momentary ignition cut, which basically allows you to change gears without lifting the throttle. Okay, so we're out on a road test now in the Yaris, having finished up with it on the dyno. First thing I'm going to do is try and give you guys a sound clip of what the blow-off valve sounds like. It is a turbo smart dual port, so see if the audio picks it up okay. Like I said, it's pretty obnoxious, but...
I'm just getting pushed back into the seat. That sounds good.
So, yeah, there's definitely some flashbacks to the 90s and the 200SX days happening here at the moment. The other thing I wanted to talk about was we have fitted the H&R lowered springs to it. One of the things that surprised me a lot was the way it's held a lot of the drivability and the softness of the suspension. I was really expecting it to go super harsh, exactly the same way a couple of other platforms have done. For example, i30N went really stiff with the H&R springs. This has stiffened up. So as far as ride comfort goes, I don't think there's been a lot of sacrifice taken away from that comfort as opposed for the aesthetic look of dropping it 30 mil. Okay, so I'll try and answer a few questions I think you might have while you're watching this video. One of those things will be about the pops and the bangs and the launch control and whether you can have this set up without it. The answer is 100% yes. You do not need to have pops and bangs on your gear shifting. You do not have to have it on every map. You can have it, for example, in track mode and not in sport mode. You can have it in all modes or not at all. So any preference that you have as far as the pops and bangs, the position of the exhaust, the loudness, the quietness, etc., is all subjective and entirely up to you how you want it at the time of tuning. So one of the questions as well that I get asked a lot about is the Uni-chip a one-size-fits-all? And the answer to that is very much no. The Uni-chip itself is designed to be installed to the vehicle and then custom live tuned. So the Uni-chip does come out with a base map on it to our agents, who are then able to fit the harness and then get the car started, get it on the dyno, where it's then custom live tuned on the dyno. Okay, so I've mentioned live tuning. Live tuning is where the vehicle's on the dyno. It's been held at what we call steady state or specific rev ranges, throttle positions, boost pressures, etc. In that position, we can modify boost pressure, fueling, throttle, everything like that without having to turn the car off, without having to do a download outside of the vehicle. All of these changes are made while the vehicle is being run on the dyno in live real time. Okay, so thanks for taking the time to watch the video. As always, hit me up with some messages, leave comments. All your feedback's really valuable. The pop and bangs literally came about because a lot of you guys requested and asked if it could be done, which is why I invested so much time into doing it. In future videos, I'll be covering things like our full exhaust, how it's made, where it's made, etc., as well as the continuing development of the tuning platform around the Uni chip. So I'll be looking at doing more active boost control, some fuel control as well, and we'll start to see how far we can push these little engines in the Yaris.